You thought your sensitivity was a weakness, but what if I told you it is the sharpest weapon you'll ever hold? Chosen one, listen carefully. The love inside of you was never meant to be casual, never meant to be wasted on shallow things. It was placed there as a sacred force, powerful enough to reach wounds that even time, silence, and distance could not touch. Have you noticed how people feel calmer in your presence, even when you say nothing at all? How strangers open their hearts to you without explanation. This is not random. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine assignment. Heaven trusted you with a love that heals, a love that carries fire and tenderness at the same time. And if you stay until the end of this message, you will begin to see why the very thing you once thought made you fragile is the exact thing that makes you unstoppable. What you carry is not ordinary. What you carry is the love of heaven itself flowing through you, and it is about to change everything. Before we continue, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment 99 below. Because 99 is the number of the one that the shepherd leaves the flock to rescue. It is a prophetic sign that heaven has not forgotten you, that even if you felt lost, you were always worth the pursuit. Comment it now as a declaration that you are found, chosen, and carrying a love that will heal others. They called you too much. They said you cared too deeply. They whispered that your heart was fragile, unstable, maybe even broken. But let me tell you something the world could never understand. Heaven does not see you as fragile. Heaven sees you as a remedy walking on 2 feet. You are not broken glass. You are healing oil. You are not weakness in disguise. You are medicine wrapped in skin. What you carry is not ordinary affection. It is divine therapy for hearts that don't even know how to ask for help. Think about it for a moment. Have you noticed how people approach you with burdens they never tell anyone else? They sit with you and suddenly, the tears they've been hiding for years fall without warning. They hear your voice, and a weight they could not explain suddenly begins to lift. That's not because you're simply nice. That's not because you have a good personality. That's because heaven flows through you like a hidden river. Your love, chosen one, is not an accessory. It is a weapon. A gentle one, yes, but a weapon nonetheless. One that pierces through the thickest walls without force, without violence, without manipulation. The world sees love as noise, loud gestures, constant words, dramatic expressions. But yours is different. Yours penetrates in silence. Your presence alone becomes a sanctuary. Someone could sit next to you without a word, and yet something inside them would begin to breathe again. They won't understand it. They'll think it's coincidence, but it's not. It's the Spirit of God using your heart as a channel of restoration. And here's the mystery. What others call sensitivity, heaven calls precision. Your compassion is not sloppy. It is not random. It is sharp, strategic, perfectly timed. Where others overlook pain, you sense it instantly. Where others mock tears, you honor them as sacred. Your very gaze carries a language no human tongue could ever translate, and it goes straight into the soul of another person. That's why your love is medicine. It heals wounds that no sermon, no lecture hall, no therapy session could ever touch. But here comes the urgency. You cannot underestimate what you carry. If you keep treating your heart as a weakness, you will bury the very tool God gave you to shift atmospheres. This love in you is not optional. It is not casual. It is not something you can put on the shelf when you feel like it. It is your assignment, and the world is starving for it. People are suffocating under invisible weights, crying silently while smiling publicly, and yet when they encounter you, something breaks. Their soul begins to unclench, their spirit begins to trust again, and their heart remembers what peace feels like. That's not a small thing. That is heaven invading earth through your existence. And yes, chosen one, it costs you. Sometimes you feel drained. Sometimes you feel unappreciated. Sometimes you wonder if it's worth it. But don't forget this. Medicine is never wasted. A pill dissolves and disappears, but in that disappearance, healing begins. Your love works the same way. You may not see the fruit immediately. You may never hear the words of gratitude, but heaven records it all. Every time you chose to stay, every time you chose to listen, every time you gave compassion instead of judgment. It was written down in eternal ink. And here is the revelation. The enemy has tried to convince you that your love is your downfall, that it only gets you hurt, that it makes you vulnerable. But in reality, it is your authority. You were designed to calm storms not with shouts, but with presence. Just like Jesus, who could stand in the middle of chaos and say one word, peace, and the winds obeyed. That same spirit lives in you. Your calmness in love disarms anger. Your tenderness melts walls of fear. Your faith expressed through compassion shifts entire spiritual climates. So hear me clearly. You are not fragile. You are dangerous. Dangerous to despair. Dangerous to fear. Dangerous to every chain that tries to keep people bound. Because your love dismantles prisons. Your love silences storms. Your love restores breath to lungs that forgot how to inhale hope. And just when you think your love is small, remember this. One drop of medicine can change an entire body. One heartbeat of your compassion can change an entire destiny. Do not despise what you carry. The very thing others mocked is the very thing demons fear. Now let me leave you with this thought. If your love has already healed strangers without effort, what do you think will happen when the exact person heaven is preparing for you steps into your life? What kind of explosion of healing? What kind of revolution of restoration will erupt when your assignment and your love collide in perfect timing? Stay with me, because the answer to that question may shake you more than anything you've ever heard before. You once asked yourself, why me? Why did my heart have to break so easily? Why did my soul feel every sting sharper than others seemed to? Why did rejection cut so deeply? And why did betrayal linger in my chest long after others moved on? You thought something was wrong with you. You thought you were cursed with emotions too heavy to carry. But hear me now, chosen one. Every tear was training. Every heartbreak was preparation. Every sleepless night of silent agony was chiseling you into a vessel heaven could trust with something greater than comfort, with healing. God did not allow you to suffer to destroy you. He allowed you to suffer so you could understand. Understand the depth of wounds words can't reach. Understand the silence of a soul too broken to scream. Understand what it means to collapse inside while still walking outside. You know what it's like to be unseen, to be overlooked, to feel invisible. And because you know, you will never ignore another person's silent cry. That is why your pain was never wasted. It was translated into wisdom, into compassion, into a love that touches without bruising, a love that restores without control. Think about it. The strongest steel is forged in fire, not in comfort. And your heart was the same. You were placed in flames so hot you thought they would consume you. You were betrayed by those you trusted most. You were abandoned by people who promised they would stay. You were mocked, underestimated, misunderstood. And in those moments, you thought you were breaking. But you were being reforged. Every scar became a map. Every crack became a doorway for God's light to shine through you. You became a carrier of empathy so authentic that when you sit with someone in their darkest hour, they don't just hear your words, they feel your survival. And here's the mystery most people will never grasp. The ones who heal the deepest are the ones who have bled the most. You can't fake that kind of authority. You can't imitate it. You can't buy it. You can't learn it in a classroom. It only comes from nights of agony where you cried to heaven, and the only response was silence. But even in that silence, something inside you grew stronger. That strength, that resilience, that ability to keep loving when everything in you wanted to shut down. That's what sets you apart. That's what makes your love heavy, weighty, undeniable. But don't mistake it. Pain was not your identity. It was your training. God never meant for you to stay in that valley forever. He meant for you to walk through it, to survive it, and to come out carrying keys no one else could. Keys to unlock prison doors in other people's lives. Keys to say, I know how this feels, and I know how to get out. Your pain gave you language the broken can understand. You don't just speak to minds, you speak to wounds. You don't just talk to ears, you talk to souls. And here comes the urgency. Do not despise what you went through. Do not curse the nights you thought would kill you. Because those nights are the reason you are unshakable now, the reason the enemy fears you. He threw everything at you: rejection, heartbreak, loneliness, humiliation. And yet, you're still here, stronger, wiser, deeper. You carry authority because you endured what others could not. You survived what should have silenced you. And now, your scars are not shame. They are credentials. Proof that you walked through hell and kept your heart alive. Have you ever noticed how people feel strangely understood when they talk to you? How they confess things they've hidden for years? That's because your survival story is alive inside you, even when you don't speak it. They sense it. They recognize the fire in your eyes. They see the resilience in your posture. They hear the weight of experience in your voice. Without even knowing why, they trust you, because your presence tells the truth. I have been there, and I made it out alive. And here is the revelation. Your suffering became your weapon. The very thing the enemy thought would destroy you is the thing God uses to make you unstoppable. Your brokenness trained you for battle. Your tears watered the soil of a harvest you're about to see. Your pain became prophecy. What you endured privately will become medicine publicly. And every person who encounters your love will taste healing they didn't even believe was possible. So remember this, chosen one. You didn't just survive. You were sharpened. You were refined. You were anointed in fire. That's why your love carries weight. That's why your compassion breaks chains. That's why your very presence silences shame. You have become a living answer to prayers people haven't even spoken out loud. But let me leave you with a question that will shake you if you dare to face it. If your pain trained you for healing, what new dimension of power is about to be unlocked when the reason behind your suffering finally reveals itself? Stay with me, because what comes next will prove that none of it was in vain. Do not be mistaken, chosen one. You do not merely give love as if it were a fleeting gesture. You carry an entire atmosphere. Where others arrive with noise, you arrive with a silence that weighs more than 1,000 words. Where many offer pretty phrases, you provoke an invisible change that no one can explain. People feel they breathe better by your side, that their burdens become lighter, that fear retreats even if they don't understand why. That is not coincidence. That is not luck. It is the Spirit of God flowing through you like a living current that invades spaces and transforms environments. Your love is not an act, not a rehearsed performance, not a mask to please. Your love is frequency. It is heavenly vibration released every time you choose to remain, to listen, or simply to look with compassion. And when you do, the invisible begins to move. What seemed closed opens. What was tied is loosed. What seemed dark begins to fill with light. That is the difference between one who loves from the flesh and one who loves from heaven. You do not only give words, you create a space where the presence of God can rest. Think about this. There are places where people walk in and immediately feel discomfort, as if the atmosphere were heavy. There are also people who carry environments of anxiety, tension, hostility. But you, chosen one, are the opposite. You are a walking sanctuary. Your mere arrival changes the spiritual temperature of a room. What was once dominated by anguish begins to fill with calm. What was once ruled by confusion begins to fall into order. Because you do not enter with human strength, you enter with divine backing. Do you know why this happens? Because you learned not to extinguish what God ignited in you. You learned to protect your sensitivity like a treasure. And when you walk with that light,
You don't need to shout for demons to retreat. You don't need to force hearts to open. Your atmosphere does the work. Your way of being becomes a refuge.
Your silences, invisible prayers. Your gaze, a reminder that hope still exists. And here comes the revelation. Your love has become an altar. Where you remain, atmospheres rise that do not depend on music or words, but on the essence you carry. That is why, without intending to, you make others feel peace in the midst of their storm. You don't plan it, but it happens. You don't force it, but it flows. Because heaven is not spectacle, it is atmosphere. And that atmosphere dwells in you. Many don't understand it. They think it is your personality, your character, your upbringing. No, it is much deeper. It is a spiritual weight that cannot be learned from books or speeches. It is something released because your heart was broken and rebuilt under the hand of God. It is something sustained because your spirit learned to depend not on the approval of men, but on the backing of heaven. That is the reason why where others fail to bring comfort, you manage to bring relief without even speaking. But do not forget this. Your atmosphere also unsettles those who love the darkness. There will be some who feel rejection toward you without apparent reason, simply because your presence exposes what they want to hide. Do not be surprised if someone distances themselves, if someone avoids looking into your eyes, if someone feels uncomfortable with you without explanation. It is not personal. It is spiritual. The atmosphere you carry unmasks, illuminates, reveals, and not everyone is ready for that. Nevertheless, there lies your assignment. Your task is not to please, but to release. Your task is not to fit in, but to transform. Your task is not to be liked by everyone, but to create spaces where true love can breathe. And you accomplish that every time you choose to be authentic. Every time you decide not to harden. Every time you let your tenderness speak louder than your words. Because in those moments, God Himself is using your atmosphere as medicine for someone else. So ask yourself this. If your presence has already changed environments without you noticing, what will happen the day you fully understand the power you carry? What will happen when you stop underestimating yourself and begin to walk in full awareness that you are a living sanctuary? Stay. Because what is coming may shake not only your world, but also the world of everyone who crosses your path. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal to you is not common. It is a secret from heaven. You were not created to love in just any way, nor to give your heart to just anyone who crosses your path. Your love is not a cheap gift thrown without direction. It is a reserved treasure, a sacred mystery that God protects zealously, because it is not meant for everyone, but for someone very specific, for an encounter that carries eternal purpose. There are hearts that will never respond to common love. They have been wounded, deceived, used, and hardened by pain. They have closed doors and raised walls so high that no superficial gesture can break through them. But listen closely. Inside those hearts, there is an invisible code, a spiritual design that can only be activated by the kind of love you carry. That love of yours that seems too intense, too deep, too pure for this world. In reality, it is the key that will unlock what once seemed inaccessible. And here is the astonishing part. It is not just about romance. It is not a sweet story of two souls finding each other. It is much greater. It is redemption. It is ministry. It is a spiritual movement disguised as a human relationship. When that encounter happens, it will not simply be that you love and are loved. It will be that together you become a channel of healing for many more. Your union will not be entertainment. It will be testimony. Your relationship will not be just companionship. It will be an altar. Think about this. God does not play with the feelings of the chosen. He did not make you wait, did not make you go through trials and purification processes just to end in something superficial. Everything you lived through was preparation for a connection that is not sustained by emotions, but by purpose. And that purpose is so great that it neither begins nor ends with the two of you. It is a fire that expands, a light that multiplies, a healing that will touch those around you. That is why many times you felt that your love was too advanced for the people you met, that you gave more than they could receive, that you offered depth where they only wanted surface. And you ended up feeling misunderstood, even rejected. It was not because your love lacked value. It was because your love was reserved. It was not for just anyone. It was for a specific moment, for a destined person. God was keeping that intensity, that tenderness, that faithfulness for an encounter that would make the difference. And here comes the urgency. Do not waste your love on connections without purpose. Do not lower yourself to fit into relationships that were not aligned by heaven, because when you place the sacred in the wrong hands, you not only exhaust yourself, you also delay the divine plan God has already designed. Stay firm. Even if the weight hurts, even if loneliness feels unfair, remember, what you carry is not common. And what is not common is not found on every corner. Imagine the moment that person who has also been processed, who has also been broken, who has also been trained in the intimacy of God, appears in your life. You will not have to force anything. You will not have to convince with words or struggle to be understood. Their spirit will recognize yours immediately. It will be like looking into a clean mirror. It will be like finding a missing piece of yourself you didn't know was gone. And in that recognition, both will know it is not chance. It is design. It is purpose. It is heaven aligning two stories to write a new one together. And make no mistake, it will not be a union perfect in appearance. It will not be free from trials or challenges, but it will be perfect in purpose. Because every wound healed in you both will become medicine for others. Every scar will be transformed into a message. Every shared tear will be a prayer that sustains many more. Together, you will be an answer, not only to each other, but to generations that will look at your story and see reflected what divine love can do when it manifests in two surrendered lives. Now think about this, and let it shake you. If your love has already healed strangers without effort, if your presence has already changed atmospheres in silence, what will happen when that reserved love finds the one it was destined for? What will happen when the inner code of another heart responds to yours like a lock that only opens with a specific key? Stay, because what is coming is not just an encounter. It is a divine activation that can transform not only your life, but also the world around you. Listen carefully, chosen one. Your love was never just comfort. Your compassion was never just a momentary relief. What you carry is much deeper. It is direction. It is a compass. It is a sign in the middle of the desert for those who have forgotten which way to walk. When others get lost in confusion, when the voices of the world fill them with doubts and lies, your way of loving becomes a living reminder of who they truly are. And not because you say it with elaborate speeches, but because your gaze, your tenderness, and your presence reflect the mirror of heaven. Think about this. There are people who have been defined by their mistakes, by their failures, by the labels others placed on them. They walk with their heads down because they believe they are worthless, that they have no purpose, that survival is all they have left. But when they cross paths with you, something changes. The way you see them does not stop at what they did, or what they lost, or what was said about them. You see them as God sees them. And in that instant, as if a ray of light pierced the darkness, they remember they are not their past. They are not their falls. They are not the voices that condemn them. That is the power of your love. It not only soothes wounds, it reveals identities. It not only offers companionship, it opens paths, because your tenderness is more than emotion. It is a compass pointing to eternal purpose. Have you noticed how some, after speaking with you, suddenly begin making different decisions? How they recover dreams they had already buried? How they begin to believe again that they have a future? That is no coincidence. It is that your love gave them back the direction they had lost. Here is the mystery. While many search for complicated maps to find meaning in life, your love works as a direct sign pointing to the divine north. You don't need great arguments. Your presence, your way of listening without judging, your way of reminding them that there is still hope, becomes a silent but powerful compass. And even if they don't know it, they are being guided toward the destiny God has already written for them. But there is something urgent you must understand. That is why your love is so attacked. The enemy knows that every time you love, a soul realigns with heaven. That is why he tried to break you so many times. That is why he wanted to make you feel useless, insignificant, lost. Because if he managed to extinguish your love, he would also extinguish the instrument God was using as direction for many. And yet, he failed, because here you are, with scars that shine, with a heart that still beats strong, with a love that refuses to die. Look at how your divine compass operates. When someone is about to give up, your compassion reminds them that there is still a path. When someone has forgotten their worth, your gaze restores their dignity. When someone is paralyzed by fear, your tenderness becomes their push forward. You do not shove, do not force, do not manipulate. You reveal. And that revelation is enough for others to remember who they are and where they must go. That is why your love is never wasted, even if sometimes you feel you give too much and receive little. Even if sometimes you think no one values what you give. Even if you wonder if it is worth continuing to love this way, I tell you clearly, your love is a holy assignment. It is a compass God placed on the earth so that those walking blind may see again. What you give is not lost. It multiplies in restored destinies. And here comes the deepest revelation. What you carry not only guides others, it awakens them. Because when someone has been loved with truth, with that pure love that seeks no self-interest, something within them is activated. It is as if they suddenly remembered they were created with purpose, that there is a greater plan, that heaven designed them with intention, and that awakening is more than emotion. It is redemption. It is restored identity. It is life refocused. Now let me leave you with this question that must shake your spirit. If your love has already been a compass for so many in secret, what will happen when that divine moment arrives in which your direction and someone else's cross to form a shared path? What will happen when that compass not only guides individuals, but in union with another chosen heart, points to entire destinies? Stay, because what is coming is not just guidance. It is destiny manifested before your very eyes. Chosen one, listen closely. This is the moment everything comes into alignment. The love inside of you is not fragile. It is ferocious faith wrapped in tenderness, divine fire hidden inside a human heart. The world mocked it, misunderstood it, tried to crush it, but heaven preserved it. What they called weakness, God has crowned as your greatest weapon. What they tried to bury, heaven is about to resurrect with unstoppable power. You are not broken, you are chosen. You are not too much. You are exactly what this generation needs. Your tears have become oil. Your scars have become keys. Your very presence has become a doorway where heaven steps into earth. And soon, sooner than you think, the one God has prepared will recognize you, not by appearance, not by status, not by shallow words, but by the holy atmosphere you carry. And when that recognition happens, when your love reserved for a sacred encounter collides with its destiny, healing won't just touch one life. It will burst forth like a river, flooding families, communities, even nations. Because your love was never meant to stop with you. It was meant to flow, to multiply, to awaken hearts long dead. So rise now, walk boldly. Guard this gift with everything in you. Refuse to shrink, refuse to doubt. Refuse to apologize for the depth of your love, because your love is heaven's medicine and the world is desperate for it. Now, declare it with me in the comments below. My love is holy. Write it as a prophetic act, as a seal over your destiny, as a reminder that what you carry is not ordinary. It is sacred. It is eternal. It is unstoppable. Remember these last words and let them echo in your soul. You are not fragile. You are not forgotten. You are not wasted. You are chosen. Chosen one. The world is waiting for your love.